Finland is a step closer to becoming the 31st member of NATO.
Turkey's parliament approved the nation's application late last night. Turkey was the last NATO member to ratify Finland's application over concerns that Finland was supporting terrorists. But earlier this month, Turkey's president approved Finland's bid, saying the country took, quote, concrete steps toward Turkish security. For more, let's bring in CBS News senior foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charles, there are still a few more steps before Finland officially becomes a full NATO member. So can you take us through those?
Yeah, Jim, nice to see you again. So now that Turkey has finally agreed that Finland should become a NATO member, they and Hungary, that was another country that was holding out, they send acceptance letters to the United States, which has been the sort of NATO caretaker since the foundation in 1949. So the State Department then notifies the NATO Secretary General that the conditions have been met. Finland then sends its own acceptance document to the United States. And at that point, Finland is technically approved and officially becomes a member of NATO. But in terms of like the formal ceremony, that comes at NATO's next summit, which happens in July in Lithuania.
And Charlie, of course, the timing of this is extremely relevant. Remind us again how Finland joining NATO boosts the alliance's defenses as the Russian aggression continues against Ukraine.
Yeah, Weijia, you know, first of all, I think it's important to remember that NATO is a military alliance. I feel that sometimes gets lost in the bureaucracy. And the central tenet to that military alliance is that an attack on one is an attack on all. This is really important. Finland shares an 832-mile border with Russia. And I can't stress this enough. This is now a NATO partner right along Russia's border. And it may have been President Putin's aim to restrict the expansion of NATO by invading Ukraine, but that plan has backfired spectacularly. Because after the invasion, the people of Finland overwhelmingly supported becoming part of NATO in order to protect their country from what's happening in Ukraine. That wasn't always the case. Now, Finland already has a substantial military. In fact, it sent its own tanks to Ukraine. But this will be bolstered even further now because NATO troops and equipment will be stationed there. U.S. troops have already trained with Finnish troops just last year. So now we've got a situation where NATO's airspace will now extend right along that Russian border.
All right, and then just to the west, obviously, of Finland is Sweden. And Sweden's also trying to join NATO. So, A, what is the latest on their application? And B, what could that mean in terms of this conversation that you are sort of telling us about in terms of this sort of military alliance?
Yeah, well, Jim, that's really messy. And it may take some more time because Turkey had been dragging its heels, as you mentioned, on approving NATO membership from Finland, complaining that the country was supporting terrorists, in this case, Kurds, specifically Kurds, who have been fighting with Turkey for decades. In fact, I witnessed that firsthand in Syria when Turkey unleashed heavy weapons on the Kurdish population. Had been supporting U.S. forces in the fight against ISIS. I'm sure you remember. So Sweden, which applied at the very same time as Finland last May, in fact, they kind of did it in pair, they're still being blocked by Turkey for similar reasons. They're accused of housing terrorists and refusing extradition of those Kurds living in Sweden. So the Secretary General says he's hopeful that Sweden will join in the coming months. But at the moment, that is not a done deal.
And Charlie, Vladimir Putin can't be happy, right, that NATO is even considering expanding. At the same time, he can't do anything because when you attack one, you attack all. But what other types of retaliation could he take out if Finland and Sweden join and he wants to send a message?
Well, Weijia, in terms of taking out, if you've got a NATO member that's right along the border with Russia, the very thought that there may be some sort of military activity or some sort of response or retaliation would take this next level. Because as we've already seen in parts of the south, in the seas off Odessa and the Black Sea, we have seen sort of what we might call harassment engagements between the United States and Russia. Finland opens up a whole new border, and you can see that border on that map in front of you. That's much larger than what's happening in Ukraine, much smaller in terms of the exposure along the Ukrainian border. But Poland has been on high alert. Finland now will be on high alert and has been. So in terms of a sort of retaliation, I mean, every time I've started a sentence with President Putin would never, I've regretted it. But where we are in a situation where you've got a NATO partner and a new NATO partner against the Russian border, I think President Putin would want to tread carefully.
All right, Charlie D'Agata, thank you so much.
Thank you.